Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome back to the Living Word podcast. I'm your host, Morajibola, and thank you for joining us once again on the show. Today, we have a very interesting topic for you. As we all know, it's Valentine's Week. I have some amazing panel members here, whereby we're going to be discussing what has love got to do with it. First of all, I've got this wonderful couple, Jay and OP, and they are going to be telling us about their love journey. And I've then also got Lady Mo, and she is Mrs. Lovergirl. They're going to be telling us about love from a Christian perspective. So sit back, grab your snacks, and enjoy the show. So first of all, I'm going to go over to Jay and Ophie. Please introduce yourself to us. Tell us how you met, what's love like. We want to hear your story about love. So over to you first, Jay.
Okay, thank you so much for having me on the show tonight and for having us on the show tonight. So as you guys know, I'm Jay Esther, and he's my lovely husband. We met, so we're talking 14 years ago now.
14 years ago,
Amazing.
wow.
Yeah. Dated for about, I want to say, 2 years after we met, we started dating.
Oh, wow.
And then we've been married for 5 years now. Yeah, it's been a great journey so far.
Yeah.
We met back in Bristol, where I went to university for undergraduate course, and he was out there working. And yeah, we met in a church environment.
Met in a church environment. That's really important. That's
a summary.
So not on Bumble, not on Tinder.
Yeah, I don't think I knew about.
I think we'll come back to that because I want to know what is it like for Christians. Do we think Christians should be dating on Tinder and Bumble? But before we go there, I just want to go to OP. What's love like for you in 5 years?
I could say it's growing. So it's love is in stages. When you first meet, then you now get to understand each other. Then from there, it starts becoming more solidified.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. So it's in stages. It starts to, you meet and then it starts solidifying. I really enjoy that. And then I'm gonna go to Lady Mo, because I'm always impressed with the way that you love. So tell us about your love journey.
I met my husband in 2021. So I newly came to the UK, and I think I'd spent like 2 months in the UK, and this amazing guy saw me from his own perspective. The first time I walked into the church, he saw me. He was distracted by me.
Distracted by your beauty.
I don't know what drew him to me, but then
what drew you to him afterwards, though?
I think it's friendship. Like, we started up as friends. Yeah. I think he made his intention known from the beginning, but I'm like, hold up. I'm new to the UK.
Like a confident man.
Exactly. But what is this I'm hearing about UK guys? Hold on.
UK bros.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me pray, let me seek counsel. Let's get to know each other first. And then we're here. We're 1 year, how many months now? I think 6 months married. Yeah. So that's how we met. And we met through a mutual friend as well, who helped us.
And what has love been like for you in that 18 months now?
Like Opie said, love is in stages. When we first started as friends, we didn't have any problem because we were friends. But when we became lovers, we had clashing views and clashing, maybe not values, but beliefs system based on where we come from.
Yeah.
So he's from another tribe in Nigeria, I'm from another tribe in Nigeria, and we had differing views. And I think that the first month we started dating, we fought. Not like physical, but like we quarreled a lot of misunderstanding. Is it about time? Is it about money? Is it about But, after that 3 months, we started getting to know each other. We had to meet at one point, compromise, but not losing our values. And, we went on, and we're here today.
That's interesting. I like the way that you said you fought, because at least you fought it out when you were dating. Me, I didn't start doing that fighting until a year into my marriage, but I'll leave that for another time. I just want to come back to Jay. So you guys, I know you dated for about 3 years before you officially made it known, and then, you kind of continued in that vein. During that period, what was it that kept you going? Because some of our viewers that are watching now, they're probably in that dating phase. What are the things that, as a man, actually, looking to pluck this woman from the garden? What were you looking for then?
No, I think first of all, it started as friendship, because in every relationship, the foundation should actually be friendship.
Yeah.
And when you're friends, it's easy to love, in the future, because when things go haywire, because you guys have already been open to each other, you can always talk about it. It's easy to talk because you're being real to each other. But when there's sometimes you're in love and you're like, if you fall in love first without building a friendship phase, it becomes more like a box, so you're now being careful. You don't want to tread on toes. You don't want to you don't want to hurt that person, but you're hurting, but when you're friends, it's very easy to say, oh, come, what are you doing, man? Like, get yourself together. You're real with each other, and you squash it and you move,
So that friendship phase is really important before you just go into a relationship. And especially as a Christian as well, building that friendship and building it, like Lady Mo said, making sure that there is something that you kind of you both do together. Like for you, sometimes it can be church and, kind of dating there. But what I would like to understand, because I know we've talked a lot about friendship, but in the 5 years that you've been married, how has things changed? And is this the same man that you married 5 years ago? How have you evolved? How has he evolved, in your view?
I think we all know that one of the most the only constant thing in life is change. And it's how we adapt to that change that brings out the beauty in whatever situation we're in. And actually, the evolving has been a beautiful evolving rather than a decline. And that's because I remember when we attended counseling, when we were getting married, by my pastor, he basically said, don't have any expectations, because if you don't have any expectations, there's nothing to be disappointed by.
Like that.
There's nothing to...
Can you just repeat that so that the people at the back of the room can hear?
Don't have any expectations. Don't be like, oh, in 5 years' time, he's going to be this multimillionaire. In this, we're going to be traveling the world and be doing this. And all of that stuff's really good. Or he's going to be, sweeping the floor that I walk on because now he's married to him. Because actually, if he doesn't do that, you didn't have any expectations. If he does do that, it's a bonus. So for me, the evolving really has been that actually I've seen him evolve in the person that he is, as my friend, as my husband, as a in his career, but also newly as a father as well. And actually it's almost like you see a different facet of them each time. And because of that genuine friendship and that genuinely relationship that you have with them, you appreciate, it's almost like, you appreciate that shell that's been scraped off, and you see that person's like, oh, I actually didn't know you could be so loving. I remember when I watch him play with our child, sometimes I'm just secretly videoing them, because I'm like, actually, because in a few years' time, this is going to be the cutest thing ever. And I didn't know him as that kind of person before, because there was never really younger children in our sort of environment. But actually seeing him in that facet just revealed a different part of him.
You fall in love with him a little bit more.
You fall in love with, Opie the cool dude, and you fall in love with Opie the father, and that's lovely.
That's really good. I like the way that you put that in terms of that evolve, and especially what you said at the beginning in terms of not having expectation. I'm going to be very honest. I had great expectation when I got married. I thought I was going to be getting flowers every day. I thought I was going to have a wonderful husband that will be worshiping me. I don't think I got that. But I just want to come to you. Did you have any expectations, Lady Mo, in terms of, when you were dating and then getting married?
Expectation in what sense, actually?
Romantic expectations.
Oh, I knew from the beginning it wasn't very romantic.
It wasn't, or it was?
It wasn't.
Oh my goodness.
It wasn't. It wasn't, and I'm not lying. But over the years, is learning.
Yeah.
What matters to me. One time he asked me a question: what is romance? To a male and a female, does it differ? Does a guy fantasize about getting flower as well? So I think that now he has tailored romance to what I like.
Yeah.
Because not every woman like flowers. Not every woman. I would prefer him to stay with me. I like quality time, better than, even though I like flowers, I love it.
Yeah.
But I would choose quality time over giving me flowers every day. If you give me flowers and you're not home all the time, what's the point of the flower?
New flowers from Australia.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think romance has been redefined for me, because romance is what makes me happy, what makes me ladylike. It makes me want to fall in love again. So romance now is now him doing what I like. And I'm not saying it's all
I really
there.
like that, because you're telling us that romance is not necessarily what it was at the beginning, because it's evolved. And I can see myself in that as well, because when I first got married, yes, I did expect all the flowers, but now romance is bringing me a cup of tea, coming to pick me up from the station. But one thing that I do want to come to, OP, is in terms of men changing, especially between dating and getting married. Because I thought that, when men get married, you're going to change up. Because women, we will mold ourselves. Some of us will mold ourselves around a man. But a man would never do that. Can you help us just demystify why that is the case?
When you say change, what do you mean?
We expect that we're going to change you, and, you will take us on all these wonderful holidays, and, we'll say do this and you will jump at it.
I don't know. It might be a bit controversial, right?
Go for it.
But for a man, right, because we're go-getters, right, we think in terms of stages. So, like, of course, a man, after he's got married and all that, he's thinking, next thing, how am I going to start feeding the family? How am I going to be, my career? Can I take it to the next level and all that? So his mind is already busy. Okay, I've got married. Okay, that box is ticked. What's the next thing?
So where do the changes go? Where do the changes come in? Because for me, I feel like there is a view that men don't change, but I think you start to, like Jay said, you start to see a softer side of a man when he's more comfortable, when he's, 5 years, when he's now a father, and, you've kind of built that relationship. How do you guys get from that very tough man that the society expects to all of a sudden, you start seeing some of these other sides of you?
If I just come in quickly, I think the lady in question has a really important role in how malleable or how soft the man evolves to become. So first, that's one aspect. The second aspect of it is conversations are so crucial. Communication cannot be underestimated or overestimated in a relationship heading for marriage. If you're having expectations of me that I'm going to be doing X, Y, Z, and you've never actually vocalized it and say, actually, this is what I would like, and then you can't really then judge me against not doing that, because it's never really been out in the open. Saying I don't give you flowers, but actually we've never spoken about the fact that you enjoy flowers and you want flowers and you want all these things. And then suddenly you're saying I'm not changing, or I'm so hard. But how are you classifying me as hard? Because actually I take the bin out, I wash the dishes.
I was going to ask that question. What does soft means? If we're saying soft, a guy becomes soft. In what context are we talking about that soft?
I don't mean it in a demeaning way. I think for me, soft is seeing a different side of my husband. Because when I first got married, I didn't really know my husband as much. We didn't start dating properly until first year into our marriage. So all I've ever seen was the loyalty. I've seen, the man that would keep his word, but I didn't see the man that would hug me. I didn't see the man that would bring me tea. That didn't start happening. I don't think that happened in the first year of our marriage, because we were busy fighting. But then now, I see the man that when I'm sleeping, he would make sure that I get that sleep. It will put a blanket over me. I didn't see that in my first year. And I don't know if that's because it's evolving as a result of what you've discussed, or is it just something that is starting to realize that, oh, a part of me?
I think I would just say it's because it's learning, is trying to understand the person he got married to. Like I remember when she was in Slovakia and she was studying medicine and just wanted to surprise her, and I just sent flowers. That's why she sent flowers from Australia. Because I was just like, So I was trying to test points, to test like, okay, she's flowers person because, coming from Nigeria and all that, and, someone that's lived in the UK for a long time, and the stories I've heard, like, when you're watching movies and all that, any small thing, they always go and give flowers and all that. So I was like, okay. And the next thing, and she's like, she just told me straight up, like, well, thanks for this gesture, but I'm not a flower person. And funny enough, secretly, I was like, oh, God, thank you.
Because otherwise I'll be spending flowers and buying flowers.
Because it didn't work for you either. Like, it wasn't...
So it was like, oh, good, that's good, So at least now let's go down to physical things. What are the things you like, okay? So I was able to understand that, and also understand, because, of course, before I got married, I'd already... read the book the five love languages, so I understood that. And my church in Nigeria, we, when we do series and Daystar, we do series of marriage, and so that's always been a learning curve for me, because Pastor Sam preached a message, emotional bank account, and he said, and that analogy really stuck in my head when he said that for a man, if you if you buy a man a car, like a woman buys a man, you've scored like 100% points in his head. It's like, wow, man, this woman loves me. And all that.
I don't know how I'm gonna buy my husband a car now because I'm hoping to score.
but if for a woman, even though I buy you a car, right, today, in the morning. Like maybe you were expecting an early morning kiss and I've not given you. In my head,
I don't care.
You know what I mean? Like in my head, I'm thinking, man, I've scored 100%. I've given her a car, whatever. And the next thing in the morning, she wakes up and she says, "Oh, you don't love me." I'm like,
how? What you just like? What you just like yesterday?
What are you talking about?
That is a very good
So
analogy,
what he now said is that for a woman, everything you do is just 1 point.
Yeah.
I feel offended.
No, but it's being logical, like meaning that try and understand what she wants, and score points. Don't think about her from your own perspective. Like you rightly said, like you're expecting hugs and all that. If as your husband, and why he has evolved to now doing all that, because he studied you and say, okay, this is what makes her happy. Even though it's out of my own convenience, because of course I'm an African man, and like hug you in the morning, duh. I want to go to work or something, So I think like you said, it's still, the word is still, you as a man, we evolve because we've gone through the understanding of you. And because we want to make you happy, we do everything.
So the message then, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that as men, in order for you to, I want to use the word sustain a marriage, you also have to evolve along with your spouse
Together,
As
you're growing, she's growing also. So probably have,
and you have to evolve in the same direction, because you could evolve away from each other.
So how can you evolve in the same?
There needs to be constant, I call it vibe check. How are we doing? How's it really going? Because I can think we're hitting it big time and you're like, we're just living in the same house. We're not really, So I think it's, and I think in our house we call it RCS, so it's real conversations, and it's just being real, whether it's about finances, whether it's about emotions, whether it's about the so it's just really being real at that point. And at that point, because it's a designated time, everybody, as in we know that it's realness. So what you're getting is unfiltered. There's no, I'm not sure, even if I'm happy, if I'm upset, whatever it is, I'm not trying to dilute anything right now, because we've set that time. Usually happens at the end of the month when money's good, and then there is no tension in that sense. But
Thank you. What is your equivalent of RCS?
We usually meet at a particular time in the evening every day.
Every day?
No, not to talk about only like vibe check, but we pray, we study the word of God, and then sometimes we talk about how are you doing, what you said to me. Like yesterday, my husband was in his podcast studio, and I went up to him to say, well, when you're home, you don't really help me with some things in the house. You just go into your podcast room. And, at night when we're discussing, he came up to me to say that I don't really like what you said. It made me feel very bad throughout the whole day. And I'm like, well, that was not the intention. I just wanted to, yeah. And this is it. How do people get into a relationship when they cannot be honest with each other? Because I've seen a lot of things, especially on social media. I was watching something today how Laju Iren, she's quite popular. She was talking about the fact that she saw a woman when she was a journalist, when she used to do journalism. She went to cover an event in a school, and then one woman came to fight the school to say, why would you tell my husband that the school fees is 150,000 is 50,000 when I told him it was 150,000? I'm like, how did you get there? Like honest conversation is the bedrock of a marriage. You have to be real with yourself. There's no sugarcoating. Because at the end of the day, it's just both of you. Like, what are you pretending for? Like, if you have
that, I'm going to be a bit controversial though, because I feel like I need to pay homage to where we come from.
Okay.
And as Nigerians, I don't know about you, but our parents sometimes they don't necessarily demonstrate that emotional vulnerability for us to learn from. I know, some of us are Gen Z. We kind of pick these things up as a result of knowing ourselves more. But there's some people out there that for them, I wouldn't even say some people, for me especially, emotional vulnerability still comes with a lot of shouting sometimes. How can we kind of like normalize it in such a way that we're having SCS, CSC, RCS, the real conversations? How can we, get to a stage whereby we can be vulnerable with ourselves? What can you suggest to our listeners?
I think I'll go first. When we were dating, interestingly, we had Sister Esther and Brokwe as our accountability couple. So Sister Esther, I'm saying sister, well, it's because she's my big sister. So she gave me a book. I can't remember the title of the book because I gave it to another person. It was that good. And in that book, a structured thing you have to talk about was in that book. And one of the things that I picked from that book was intentionality. You cannot drive a marriage without intentionality. You have to, by yourself, come up with a structure to say, this is how we are going to do it. On a particular day, we have to discuss this. On a particular time, we have to go out on it. Because if there's no structure, you all will be carried away with like all the busyness of life. There's work, there's family, there's their friends, there's social media, there's scrolling on our phones back and forth. So like intentionality really, really matters. You have to structure, you have to come up with that plan to say what works best for you. I'll give an example. When we first got married, I'm an early riser. I pray in the morning, I do everything in the morning, and then by 10 o'clock I'm asleep in the night. But my husband doesn't sleep until like 2 o'clock in the morning, even if he's going to work, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And then when I'm trying to wake him up in the morning to pray, it's like, please leave me alone, you this girl. Because I just slept, literally. So we had to come to a middle point to say, okay, in the evening when we come back from work, when we have eaten dinner and we can, talk, we can pray, we can read the word of God together. So that's intentionality. You can't drive a marriage successfully without intentionality.
I like that intentionality. And brother, from your perspective, is there any other ingredients because we've heard about intentionality, what else can move that? And we've heard about communication. What other ingredients would you, if we were doing a mixture, a love portion?
So for me, I think it's not bringing titles into the marriage.
Oh, that's a big one. Tell us more about it.
Oh, you're the husband. No, you're the wife. You know, sometimes it's basically just still thinking yourselves as still boyfriend and girlfriend.
I'm not sure I completely agree with the bringing titles.
In terms of, because you said about paying homage, sorry to cut you short. You talk about paying homage to Nigeria, and there's a lot of, worry me, let me kneel down, let me do this, and all of that stuff, I'm sure adds flavor to the marriage. But actually, if you then start to see this person less of your friend and less of your partner, for some people, it can be
you merge both of them.
You can. Because nothing says because I've called you what's a lower rim in English? I'm trying to think of the crown of my head. The crown of my head. No, nothing says because I've called you the crown of my head, I'm now vulnerable with you. Yeah. Nothing says I respect you anymore. But suddenly I've put these big titles that means that, only certain cups are for daddy, only certain spoons are for daddy. But actually we can't be real with each other. We're respecting you so much that we've lifted you up here, but actually I can't be naked heart-wise with you. And I think that's what he's trying to say. It's understanding that friendship and partnership more critically than actually all of the titles that we would want to put on. The titles are great. The kneeling down, and if that's how you
I'm not sure if there's anyone that still kneels down for their husband or wife.
You'll be surprised.
Wife.
You will
maybe
be
your
surprised.
husband.
In our generation, I know at least a few people who still do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where communication goes. Maybe that's what communicates to the man as love.
Maybe that's what works for them.
Sure.
I think it's different folks, different strokes. For me, I like to balance it. I quite like the traditional, lowering me. If I want to massage my husband's head, I can do a little bit of that, but I won't go to the extent of, having to kneel down for him. But I do it more from my children's perspective. I want them to know that he is the head of the family, and I want that respect to be there. So I probably wouldn't really do it if they're not there.
So are we saying that kneeling down for your husband is wrong?
I don't go as far as kneeling down.
But is it wrong?
Reserved.
Like, is it entirely wrong?
Is it wrong?
What, to kneel down?
I think it depends on the situation. I wouldn't just wake up every morning and be kneeling down for my husband. I wasn't brought up that way. It took me a while to get this whole submission right. And that submission, that part of the submission is not something that I have, submitted myself to. But there are other aspects of it that I feel like they still have a place in our society.
I have an opinion, though. I think that in marriage, you do what works for you.
Yeah.
And like, if you're marrying a traditional man and you're a traditional woman, and you both enjoy that, or you both have come to that agreement. So for this family to work, this is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be kneeling down to give you my food. I think that marriage
is for that couple.
Yes, marriage is what the
maybe
couple...
we need a man's perspective on this in terms of not you, but from a man's perspective. What does that?
I think I'm quite different because if you call me Oluworimi, I'm out of the house. Because I don't like titles. I don't like you hailing me and all that. I just come, just let's be normal. Don't psych me for anything. Nah, it doesn't work. It won't work.
Right?
Yeah. There's sometimes she does it and she will get like, I'm just like, nah.
Yeah.
So I'm this kind of person don't serve me special meals. Don't give me special cup. Just let's be
equal.
Yeah, that's me. So I might not be speaking.
I think upbringing is important there, isn't it? Really, really important. If he grew up around the kind of family that they kiss each other, greet themselves. Yeah. Now, not a lot of Nigerian families can say they do that. They like my dad is. I'm on my knees where who's hugging and kissing you.
Yeah.
So and understanding actually that's the kind of family that he spent more of his lifetime than we have spent married
together. Yeah.
So for you to then say you want to switch that up and then suddenly imbibe him in the culture of kneeling down and all of that, you might be causing friction where it's really not necessarily. Yeah. Because what you're trying to achieve is respect, but actually he's seeing it as not respect.
Yeah. So and I think you're really right. You're very right there, because for me, it's what I've seen. Not necessarily my parents do, but my wider family, my uncles, my aunties are very traditional. That's the way that they treat their husband. So a lot of that has just managed to rub off me. naturally without me having to even think about it sometimes. But I do want to go on to we've discussed about marriage, we've discussed about Oloworimi, but further down the line when it comes to marriage, you've mentioned about, you don't want titles, but what really keeps a marriage going?
I've said it before.
Okay, I'm gonna be, because we said that there are no topics off limit. What is the role of sex in marriage?
Well, yeah, it's important, yeah. But of course, everybody's got their own, because of course, before you get married, you'll be thinking in your head, oh, it's every day you'll be doing it. Oh man, so if I get that tonight, man, you now realize that, no, it's just too tired. You're just coming, especially because because she's a doctor.
Yeah.
You're saying, you as a man, you need to watch and see. You need to read, exactly. Someone has just come from a 12-hour shift, and you're like, come on the bed, man. By the time the kissing starts and you're seeing someone snoring. You know what I mean? So it's just, to me, yeah, keep you up, like, just read body language, know when it's time. Because there's sometimes, of course, you might want to start the whole process and you realize that the person has been beefing you for 2-3 weeks, So, and you can just be like, I'll just say you're back, see me, just take and let me go and rest. You don't want that kind of thing, because love should actually, sex should actually be love, you know what I mean? Yeah, basically. So there's sex and there's love making. There's a process.
I say that, and I will come to you, Jay and Lady Mo, but I think for me, I'm getting to a place whereby, when you're like 1, 2, 3, 4 years, it's kind of like you go at it as a rabbit, and you start and everything goes. But now I'm like, we need to walk this thing up. It's not just you're just going to be like lie down and then we do that. There has to be romance to it. What's your?
I think that to be honest, it depends on who you are. You know what I mean? So some men are just straight up.
Yeah.
But
are women like that though?
No, they're not. And that's why for me, as a man, right? Yeah, I want to go in and come out. Yeah, I've got my satisfaction. But for me, I'm coming as a service provider, basically. I'm coming here to make you satisfied. Not about, I know I can get satisfied within the next.
Is that a traditional African man thing though?
What do you mean?
I'm coming here to get you service provider. Thank you.
So for me, like I told you, I don't have that kind of mindset, because I believe in, like, making the woman enjoy the whole process, right from the kissing to the caressing to the whole thing. There's a process, because when you as a man, you've done it, you're satisfied. But man, the woman is still, you've already, so for a man, we've gone from 0 to 100 in all sorts, then for a woman, she's still driving very slow. You have already gotten to your destination. And at the end of when everything is finished, she's not satisfied, but she's just like, okay.
What else? This happened.
Can I come to you? Because I think this is actually, I know, we're on a podcast and we are a church podcast, but this is a real issue in our churches and in our community, whereby, and sometimes it goes back to the traditional roles of men and women, and sometimes culturally to say, oh, I don't need to get satisfied. It's satisfied, I'm happy. How do we start to have educative conversations around this, that men could also be providers?
So I think there needs to be a degree of self-education. I think a lot of people rely on the fact that the church must have the conversation, or, we must talk about it in our group sessions, but actually there's a place of using Christian literature. And I say this because my mum is very big on this, and she's written several books on marriages and singleness. And her latest book, Transitioning from Single to Married, talks about it a lot. It's on Amazon and on several different platforms, so please go ahead and look at it. But she speaks about actually understanding yourself. So he's spoken about, and you can do that from like Christian literature, I said, but he's spoken about, like it's a process. For me personally, it starts before the kissing.
Yeah.
It starts from the words, oh, how was your day?
Yeah.
Or, how about I just take you out for, we just go for a walk. Yeah. It's not just, let's get to it.
There is a process to it.
And because she's coming in with a lot of things from the day, there needs to be some offloading process before she can onboard the ship with you, which is where you're trying to get to. So I think in terms of in our churches, I think there needs to be signposting to Christian literatures that people can gain from. When they're comfortable in their own self-knowledge and self-awareness of themselves, they can then start to openly have conversations. But if I don't even know from literature that men and women are different in this way, for example, I may struggle to understand, oh, that's how my body works, or these are what my needs are, to then be able to communicate it to my husband. And I think then the other thing is there needs to be vulnerability, and I think that is such a critical thing between couples. There needs to be vulnerability, like, oh babe, I really don't enjoy that particular thing. You might really like it, and I might do it to make you happy, but it's really not my thing.
And I think that communication is really important. And, you know, as a church, we are doing a lot in terms of making sure that there is pre-marriage counseling. But in terms of educating ourselves as well, where can we find some of the sources? I know you've mentioned about your mom and the books. I think that's a great, I've read one of them.
I'll just jump in here. For me, most of the things I learned about marriage is from my church in Nigeria.
Sex in church. But some of us are still a bit like, that's not for church.
Well,
It should be, actually.
If we don't get it in church, I'll get it from outside.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Pastor Sam Adeyemi preached a message when he was talking about, I think it was emotional bank accounts or something, and he talked about how when she said, I just remembered when from the morning the man has already started sending messages, right? He preparing her for the night, because we were just boom boom go, right? But it starts dropping, so that's why it's called emotional bank account. You start depositing that check. Emotions from the morning, you know, that kind of thing. So she, even at work, you're sending her messages. Of course, by the time she's coming home in the night, she's already, her mind is already.
I'm not being an hypocrite, but for me, I still feel a little bit uncomfortable in terms of how the church does this. It feels like this is things of the world, and, you know, you guys should just figure it out and know how to do it.
I think there just needs to be more realisticness, so that's even a word, in the church. And, you know, I remember when I was growing up, I had a particular auntie in church that would categorically tell you, like, sex is good and it's pleasurable, you enjoy it. And I think there needs to be more, I don't want to say sex champions in church, but yeah.
That is me now. Like, most of my friends that get married now, I'm telling them sex is beautiful. Sex is enjoyable. You can enjoy sex. If you're having issues in your sex life, there is a way to enjoy sex. One of my friends recently got married, and I was texting her, oh, how is it going? You know, like, are you finding it difficult? You know, and she was like, oh, it's difficult. Have you tried this? Have you tried it? Because I tried. You know, we tried a lot of things to arrive at what works for us.
I mean, it's funny the way that when everything outside of sex in our marriages, you know, you Google it, you find a way to learn about it. But when it comes to sex, for me, traditionally, I still feel like, oh, no, we're just going to figure it out on our own. So what's the role of the church? I think
I think that the church need to do a little better. I know that they are trying. There's a lot of responsibility in church. Like, the church is championing a lot of things. But, like, even if the pastorate cannot or do not want to discuss this kind of thing, they can bring experts.
I like that.
And they don't.
So if you're an expert and you want to, you're a Christian expert, please drop us a line.
Really, maybe not an expert. Maybe somebody that is comfortable talking about it. I'm comfortable talking about it. I can sit in front of couples to be and talk about what sex is about.
We have a sex therapist and a counselor here.
Because I feel like what you don't know, you will be ignorant of it. You will always not get the best out of it. So if you know that this can work, this, you know, there are a lot of things about sex.
It's sharing as well, isn't it? Because sometimes, you know, when you share that knowledge, someone else knows about it, within them having to go down a rabbit hole, and it brings blessings into their marriages. So I think it's a win-win situation, but it's just, especially, you know, I keep saying those of us that are traditional and cultural, because that's just the environment that I grew up in, and I'm not quite British when it comes to those things. But I see there is a little bit of a trend, especially with all our sisters and brothers that are new to the country, and who knows what kind of marriages that they kind of do nowadays. But there is a lot of breakup in relationships and marriages. I think I was reading the statistics the other time, and it's about 30% of new immigrants are actually divorced within 1 year of arrival. Yeah, that is significantly high.
Yeah, I think it's because, of course, you're coming into another culture, into another country with culture. We're in Nigeria.
Be equipped before you leave.
1, 2, you need to be realistic with yourself because, you're coming
What
in.
do you mean by realistic?
Okay. So you're coming from Nigeria. Nigeria is very masculine. Let's not lie. And where the Western world is very feminine. What do I mean? So the man rules.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, we're the one that whatever we say goes. But when you come to the Western world, a lot of laws protect the woman, right? Not also many laws protect the man. So you need to, first of all, as a man, understand that. So you need to get yourself in check, right? That doesn't mean that, of course, let's not lie. The
And you
woman.
balance that with also still wanting to be the breadwinner, the traditional man. Is there a way to find the balance?
Still need to. That's why I say I need to face the reality. What do I mean is, okay, I've come into this country and I've given so much rights to the woman, right? And it's basically almost like here it's a 50-50 thing, equality. So let me just start getting my mindset to that. I know that if my marriage is going to work well in the United Kingdom or America or anywhere, I need to just know that I need to put some things. So let me give you an example. In Nigeria, it's a woman that wash the dishes and wash the dishes. But when you come to the UK, you understand that, the woman, she's gone to the night shift. She's working as hard because, Nigeria or in Africa, you have a bit of more housewives or women that do own shops and, they can still have a little bit of time. But when you come over to the United Kingdom, right, it's more of, she's busy, you're busy. You don't expect someone that's gone on 12-hour shift to still come home to make food for you, wash plates and all that. Do you want to kill? You need to be a bit realistic.
And I think people abroad have a role to play in that as well. We like to build castles in the sky sometimes because we want our families and friends to come and join us so we can build a nicer and bigger community. But actually, the place of actually saying, there's no, not even I'm struggling. There's division of labor here. I also do the school runs. I also wash the dishes, and doesn't demasculinize, but this is the reality of it. She can't be the one doing it, or he can't, because there are some house husbands as well. He can't be the one doing it, or and likewise she can't be. And it's just that reality where you've equipped yourself. Like I remember one of my cousins, some of their friends came from Nigeria to Canada, and he was really baffed by the fact. He said he would easily go away for 6 months and the wife would be the one, because he's just working. The wife was being the one doing X, Y, Z. But actually, when they moved to Canada, he was doing school runs. He was doing nappy changes. He was doing, and he was like, whoa. I really haven't been a father in that sense. It really was a big shock to him. Like one time they went to pick up the children from school and the kid was like, what are you doing here? Like, it was that. So I think people just need to have in that same, so come or the greener pastures, there needs to be that reality check that it's a division of labor thing. And then that way, actually, there won't be friction because we understand the roles a bit better or the responsibilities a bit better.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And Lady Mo, what in your view in terms of this, when it comes to division of labor in the house, how does that work?
I think I remember one of the advice that Jay gave to me, I think a couple of months after we got married. She said that there is no 50-50 in this in marriage, and that there's sometimes your marriage will be 80%, you will be 80% and your husband will be 20%, and sometimes you will be 20% and your husband will be 80%, that you must work together as a team. And when she said it, because at that time, I was new to marriage and I was like, I'm washing up the plates every day. What's this man who contributes? Just taking me to work. Like, that's the only thing he's doing, And then it really, hit me hard. And, when I received that mindset, I just felt like, oh, I'll do it whether it's there or whether it's not there. And then it would do it whenever I'm there or when I'm not there, And so I think that we should stop seeing marriage as a 50-50 thing and say that, like, my team, we're one. Just like Christ said it, we are one. And if one person is down, the other person will be up to uphold the other person. So I think that's a very good advice. And
I really like that, actually, because like you said, marriage it's never 50-50. I mean, when I first got married, I used to think that, yes, maybe it's 80 and I'll do 20%, he will do 80%, because I just had my expectations, 10 years in now, I realized that actually it's the other way around. But that's the grace that I am given in my own marriage in terms of how that works for us, that sometimes I'm 70% and my husband is doing the 70%. But there are also other times when I need to step up and I'm like, oh, okay, I actually need to get up for the school run. Yeah. But again, it's what works, and that communication is what really matters. We're going to take a 5 minutes break now, because when we come back, I really want to discuss a fundamental aspect of marriage, and one of the areas whereby, it can actually, if it's not well addressed, it can become an area that people disagree on in marriages, and that's around finances. So we're taking
interesting.
we take a 5 minutes break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to discuss finances, when we're going to discuss the role of God in marriages and keeping marriages together. And don't forget to join us again. There's going to be another episode of this podcast, so make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you shortly.